Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. The other day, a new friend brought me this, what appears to be a Montblanc Boheme pen, but as he knows, it is actually a fake. I say the word fake because it's not so much a clone. It's not just imitating the Boheme pen and mechanism. It has a Montblanc logo on it. It says Montblanc, and it even pretends that it has a 14K nib. So I was curious to know, how close does this get to the real thing? I don't have a Boheme that looks exactly like this, but as you know, if you follow this channel, a few weeks ago at the Commonwealth Pen Show, I got a beautiful gold-plated version. This is the real thing, and certainly I can compare the mechanism, and I can compare the way it writes and the size and the weight, although they're not the same materials, and just how do they feel, how does it operate, what do you get for a pen that runs somewhere, well, originally was probably around $500-600, and now on the eBay you can pay, some people are wanting is well over $1,000 for this pen. I actually paid $400 for it, but I think it's quite beautiful. Don't forget to subscribe. It's the way to support the channel. It's free and it makes me happy. So this is the pen that I got at the Commonwealth Pen Show a few weeks ago. It came out in 2000, as far as I know from looking on the web. It has a little stone here. This is a citrine, which is a semi-precious stone that's in the quartz family, and it's gold-plated. That's what they say. I don't know if it's 14 karat gold or just gold. I don't think so. It's just a gold metal finish. When you open the pen up, you post by screwing it on, so it's very secure when it's posted, and then of course it comes in and out, and it clicks to so that it's really all the way out, so that when you're writing with it, it doesn't go back in. So it's a sort of satisfying click at the end. I don't know if you can hear that, but you can, when you're using the pen, that's a nice touch. I've always said that there's something kind of silly about this, because the nib goes inside like a Lamy retractable or the Pilot Vanishing Point, but then you still have a cap. But it does occur to me that if you were, let's say, writing and you didn't want to unscrew this and put this back on top, that there is perhaps an advantage, so that the nib won't dry out in the middle of writing. So it does have a certain functionality. And the way you put cartridges in and out of the pen is cool. You open it when it has to be open, the pen out, and then you turn this and the cartridge comes right out. And then you take it out, and I don't want to get ink, but you pull it out and then you take it in, and then you turn it again, and then you can close this, and then it can go in and out this way. Now, as a result, it cannot take a converter. In doing this video, I spent a lot of time doing research on the web, sort of see how you can tell the difference between a fake and a real Montblanc Boheme pen. I owe a debt of gratitude to Nathaniel Surf in the pen market, who has a very good piece on his website comparing fake Boheme with the real ones. It does seem that the ones that are faked are the black ones, the more classic early models. I think they're easier for them to do that. I have not seen any evidence on the web that a gold version like this one that I have is one of the ones that are fake. Nevertheless, I got very worried about it since I got such a good deal on it. Was mine real? And this drove me to look at certain things under a microscope. I have this inexpensive magnifying camera that I use sometimes on the channel, and I looked at the cap itself, which is the top of the cap is where there is a serial number, and I was surprised to see the word France, and I wondered, how could it say France when Montblanc pens are made in Germany? Well, it turns out that actually that is another indication that my pen is real, because Montblanc had the caps actually made in a factory, jewelry factory in France, and they had to say on the cap France because they set the stone, etc., on the cap. So that actually is an indication that mine is real. The fake doesn't say France on it. However, it does have a serial number. Mine has a serial number. In doing this, looking at my version under the microscope, though, is when I noticed that mine isn't perfectly mint, that actually it's quite scratchy, particularly at the top of the cap, I guess, where it got the most use. The fact that it is gold plated means that it's much more likely to show up scratches, etc., etc., as some of the plating comes off. Although to the naked eye, it looks very good. It's only when you look at it under a microscope. The serial number, you would think, is one of the indications of the reality of the pen, but the fakers now put serial numbers on their fake Boheme pens. The thing is that if you do enough research, you'll find out that the same serial number will appear on multiple pens, and that's a sure giveaway probably that you have a fake. Another thing that you want to get with a pen when you're getting it on the used market is the box, right? Now, Montblanc pens come in a wide variety of different boxes, but they're usually quite elaborate and fancy. This, my pen came with this big fall leather box, and when you open it up, it's very impressive, right? It has this silk interior. It fits beautifully into the box. It came with this manual. Now, I don't think it came with all of the stuff that it probably would have had. Well, it would have had a cartridge probably. It would have had a warranty card and other things. It did at least come with this brochure. Now, just because it comes in a box does not mean, though, that it's real, because you'll see on eBay, for example, there are a lot of people selling just the boxes, and so that is not an indication of real. Mine did just come with the box. It actually came with the sleeve that comes with the box that says what model it is, etc., etc. So that also it's something, it makes you feel a little bit better about the pen when it does have its box. When it doesn't have its box, that should be something that might worry you, because the boxes that come with Montblanc pens are so beautiful and elaborate that I don't think that most people who buy an expensive pen like this are just going to throw the box out. Here is the fake MB, I'm going to call it the Bohemian pen. I call it a fake because it is not just copying the Montblanc. It has the Montblanc logo on it. It says Montblanc on the side. It goes so far and shamelessly claims to have a 14K nib on this, when in fact it is a steel nib. I was able to find online a version of the Boheme pen, the Douai, that is similar to this, but has a platinum cap. It does have the ribbing on it, so it's not exact perfect looking copy, but that seems to be the model that they're emulating. It's supposed to, I think, have a semi-precious moonstone here. I'm not sure if that's what the material is here, or just plastic. It's exactly the same size. This is obviously a different material, but they're the same size, and they have the same similar mechanism. Now, in terms of the mechanism, this unscrews same way, and you turn it, and it comes in and out, and it also has the same way that it opens, like a torpedo. But there are slight changes. So it's pretty smooth when it opens and closes. That part is fine, but when it gets to the farthest end, it doesn't click into place. So, my guess is that when you're writing with it, it'll be more likely to go in and out, which it's not supposed to do, and not stay in there firmly. The other thing I noticed with use is that the opening here had a tendency to open. The little door would open when it wasn't supposed to. When you took this, it posts, but when you would remove it, when you remove the cap, sometimes when you take the cap out, this would come out open. And you can see that there's a bit of a space there. So it's not as well made. It's cheaper feeling, and it's lighter, as I said already, to the original. It says Montblanc here as well. So it really is trying to be a fake. And one worries that it is perhaps being sold in certain places, not as an MB Bohemian pen, but has a real Montblanc pen. Okay, the real pen, the real Boheme pen that I have here weighs a little over 40 grams, almost 41 grams. And the fake comes in at a little over 30 grams. Now, of course, this is a copy of a different model than the one I have. The one I have is all metal. This one is copying a resin version, so I'm not sure how off this is, but my guess is that this is lighter than the Douai and other Bohemian pens. It feels inexpensive, while the real one has a kind of luxury quality feel to it. So one key thing is the comparison of the nibs. Now, if we open up the Carré version of the pen, it is actually an 18 karat nib on it. It's two tones. Some of the Boheme pens have 14 karat nibs, so that in itself is not an issue. But if we look at the fake, we'll see that it also says that it is gold, and it says it's 14 karat, but it most certainly is not a 14 karat nib. So that is really kind of, I think that's the worst of it, along with the fact that it actually says Montblanc on it. In terms of materials, clearly this is not going to be platinum. My guess is that very likely that the stone here, I don't have any way to test this, but maybe just plastic. It has like a slight little nick to it, while this is a actually semi-precious stone. Citrine is a semi-precious stone, so that's a difference. And you can see the way it sort of catches the light, I think, is much more attractive. I mean, this is a very, very beautiful pen, I think. All kinds of interesting details to it, the way in which the design, the squares get bigger and in the middle, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller. I think that's very elegant, the way that's engraved. This is a very simple design. So the old adage, you sort of get what you pay for. The question is, when you're buying a pen like this, it's so expensive, is it really worth all of that? And here, this is only, around $40. I'm seeing, the more I'm looking at them, I'm seeing little details. For example, the clip here is shaped, here sculpted. This is much more simple. You may also, a lot of people might like the black and silver much better than the gold. So that's another difference. This may be more to your taste. I would say what's interesting about this pen is that it's a good way to test out this mechanism and see if this is for you. This kind of pen is for you in terms of size, and is this if you're going to use the pen on a daily basis, it's a good test. But I really don't like the idea of encouraging this kind of fraudulence, because my guess is that these pens aren't just sold to people knowing that they're fakes. I suspect that there's a certain market out there that is actually trying to push these as real pens and cheat people, given the way they're put together. If you want to have a similar experience with a pen that doesn't, that is, I have never tried one, but Maison makes a clone of the Boheme pen that says Maison on it, that doesn't look exactly like the Montblanc. And given the fact that Montblanc no longer makes this pen, I think that's perfectly okay to do that. But this should not be encouraged. So how do these pens write? This is the real one. It is the Boheme. And this is supposed to be a double B. At least that's what it says on the box. But I think it's more like a broad, or even, well, it's certainly thicker than a medium. This is a Pelican cartridge. So it takes international style cartridges. And this is rodeo paper. It writes very smoothly, but it has a kind of bounce to the nib. So it's gold, 18 karat, but it doesn't actually have much flex to it. When I first got the pen, there was a bit of a skipping, but now the more I'm using it, the less that's true. And again, that sort of points to the thing when you can't really understand a pen till you've used it for a while. It doesn't have much reverse writing. It's very wet. So it's very nice. Writes really smoothly. Pleasure. So here's the knockoff. This is called MB, and sort of the Douai Boheme. But let's call it a Bohemian pen. And this is also a Pelican cartridge. It's in there. Rodeo paper. It is not as smooth. Now, and I would also say, by the way, it is supposed to be extra fine, but I think it's writing like a medium. Or like a Japanese medium, which is fine with me. I prefer, particularly for writing, I don't like extra fines. So it's less wet than the real one. And since I've switched to this cartridge, originally it had, believe it or not, a Montblanc cartridge in it. It seems to be behaving, but before it wasn't. So this is the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. There's no flex to the nib, but that was true in a way. That's true too of the Montblanc, although the Montblanc has a pleasant bounce to it. There's really, the comparison really is similar to a lot of gold versus metal pens, steel pens. That this has a more feedback. Part of that is perhaps because it's supposed to be an extra fine. It's not as smooth. but it's pretty good when it's writing. But as I mentioned, I had some trouble with it. Right now, it seems to be writing fairly well. One thing that I do notice, even though they're very similar in size and shape, um, is that this feels less comfortable. I would say that it's much rougher on this step up, and the whole material of the pen just doesn't feel as nice in the hand. I think since it's a small pen, oddly enough, the weight of the Carré version, gold version, just feels nicer, and the whole material of it feels nicer in the hand. This feels cheap and particularly uncomfortable when it comes to this part of the pen. So you do get what you pay for. Certainly, a pen that's this inexpensive. Most of the money, I would say, is going to go into making all this, the cap and everything. It's interesting from a financial standpoint that there is enough money in all this. I would argue, though, that somebody who's going to this much trouble to imitate the originals, is doing that probably with the idea of selling this as if it were a Montblanc somewhere. I was fortunate in college to have a really brilliant advisor, PhD advisor, used to say all the time, the proof is in the pudding. He was British. I guess that's a British expression. If you look at these two pens, you might say, oh, well, they're really quite similar. And actually, when you just use the mechanism that is so famous, the retractable nib that goes in and out, they seem to work fairly similarly. I mean, it's not that much better on the Boheme, the real one, seemingly. But as I've started to use this pen just for a few days, I quickly sensed how much cheaper it is. For example, well, first of all, when you write with it, I had trouble with the ink. Initially, it wrote okay, and then it kind of dried out, and I changed the cartridge. Now it seems to be working again all right, but I suspect that that's a problem that was going to continue. One of the things that is potentially annoying about this design is that once you put the cartridge in the pen, you can't really squeeze it and do the kinds of things that you can with a typical cartridge pen to sort of get the ink going. So you have to have faith that it's all going to work as it goes on inside. And so that's kind of troubling that suddenly it dries out. What are you supposed to do? You open it up and try to fiddle around with it, but it's very hard to do anything about that. I felt that having to do, I think, with the lightness of it, that when I wrote with it, it wasn't as comfortable. So there are all these things that make you realize that it's cheap, the way it's done. I think the thing also that bothers me the most is the pretense that it has a 14-karat nib. It actually says 14K on the nib. So in conclusion, don't buy this pen. If you can get a good deal on a real one, do buy it. I think it is a nice pen, and I enjoy it. If this has been useful, please remember to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's the way to support what I do. Thank you.